Hi guys, how are you doing? It's science time, and today I would like to talk about the thermal energy transfers by Ilya IGCSE course. So guys, before going through this video, I will be asking you to subscribe my channel, like, drop a comment, and if you haven't turned on the bell yet, please do it so you will be familiar with my upcoming videos. So let's go. So modes of heat exchange, what are they? Heat is being transferred between the objects with different temperatures. So don't forget this. Whenever two things with the same temperature, no heat transformation is going to involve. So the objects with different temperatures, therefore, whenever their temperatures change, their kinetic energy is going to be affected too, while they either warm up or cool down. It depends on their temperature. There are three different ways for the transformation of heat, known as conduction, convection, and radiation. As you can see in the picture, conduction, it's there, convection, and radiation by different types of waves, which they are known as electromagnetic waves. So, and now conduction. What is it? Conduction is the transfer of energy in form of heat or electricity from one atom to another with an object by a direct contact. Guys, don't forget this, by a direct contact, not an indirect contact, with the presence of medium particles. So in conduction, the particles are present. But guys, don't forget this, in conduction, the motion of medium particles is not required, but the presence of medium particles is required. Conduction occurs in most states of matter: solid, liquid, or fluid. Liquid or gas. However, solid transfer energy more efficient compared to fluids, since the atoms are tightly packed together and aren't moving freely. So the reason that in conduction, solids they are they are being used for the process of conduction efficiently compared to fluids, compared to liquids and gases. This is because the atoms in solid, they have a high intermolecular force, or let's say in other words, they are tightly packed and the forces of attraction between the particles is really high. Conduction of heat occurs molecules increase in temperature. The atoms which have a greater kinetic energy will be bombarded, they will collide with the atoms in their surrounding, like beside themselves. For example, when you place your finger on a cold pot, like imagine that you are placing your finger on a cold pot, and after heating the bottom of it, like heating the pot, after a few minutes or after like an hour, your muscles will feel hot, since the thermal energy has been transferred to all over the pot, which means conduction. And that's why I'm saying in solid, since the particles are tightly packed, as you can see in the picture, therefore the conduction can be used more efficiently. So, and now convection, the second type of heat transformation. Convection is a process by which heat is transferred by the movement of the heated fluids, such as air or water. So this means that the motion of medium particles is required, since the movement of the heated fluid, such as air or water. So it is also related to their density, their compactness. Natural convection results from the tendency of most fluids, most gases and liquids, to expand when heated or to become less dense as they gain temperature and finally to rise. So this means, in a summary, in the process of convection, like a part of that fluid, a part of that gas or a part of that liquid, it will gain temperature. It will, like, its kinetic energy will be much more greater than it were. So this means it expands, its volume will increase, which causes the density to be less. Therefore, it rises, as you know. It's also in natural physics. Since the motion of medium particles, density, in other words, or compactness, is effective in convection, so it cannot be involved in a vacuum. And also the same thing for conduction, since in conduction, yeah, it's right that in conduction, the motion and the movement of medium particles doesn't play any role in conduction, but in conduction, it cannot be involved in a vacuum, same as convection, because particles are supposed to collide with each other in order to transfer heat. Whether in vacuum, however, in vacuum, there are no particles, therefore conduction and convection cannot occur. But radiation can occur. As you can see in the picture, related to convection, the heated air will rise, and how can I say, like the part of the air which is cooler than the one which has gained kinetic energy, which has gained temperature, is going to replace with the one which has a higher kinetic energy. And the last type, radiation. Radiation, or in other words, electromagnetic waves, is the energy that comes from a source and travels through space. That means it's like radiation, these rays, these electromagnetic waves are capable of traveling through a vacuum and may be able to penetrate various materials or objects, in other words. So this means that while they are entering different objects, they can pass through it, they can penetrate various materials, or let's say various objects. The color of those materials or objects, in other words, are much crucial, are much important, since the rate which the light, that radiation travels through an object varies in different colors. So the color is effective in this process. So I'm going to talk about this really briefly and in details. That dark objects are great absorbers of heat, which defines that also they are a good emitter of heat. However, in silvery and shiny objects, for example, white objects, they are great reflectors of heat. That means they are not going to deliver, and they are not going to encourage that radiation, that light, that ray, to that electromagnetic wave to enter the object. Instead, they are going to reflect it. So they are a great reflectors of heat. And that's why some people are placing a shiny surface or a white surface, a silvery surface, on their windows, on their cars. Therefore, more of the light is going to be reflected. Most of the light is going to be reflected. And it's not going to make the objects in the car that much hot. And examples of radiation, infrared radiation being used as radiation dryers. And as you can see in the picture, the surface which is matte and black, the temperature is going to increase much higher since it's absorbing and emitting the heat much more compared to shiny, or let's say in other words, white objects. So guys, let's go through a couple of questions. Question number 1. It says that which of these methods of heat transfer does not involve particles? Radiation, conduction, convection, or all of these? So guys, at first, please pause the video, and then after you got your answer, please resume it. So, question number 1, answer. Which of these methods of heat transfer does not involve particles? So guys, the answer is radiation. And why? Since the only way for transferring heat without the use of any particle is radiation. Because in conduction, since conduction occurs when the particles are going to collide and they are going to be bombarded with each other for encouraging the whole object to become hot. So the particle is required in conduction. And also in convection. Convection is related to like the movements, the motion of those particles while they are gaining temperature, while their kinetic energy is getting much greater. So their density is going to be less, since they are going to be expanded, their volume is going to be increased. So that air or that water molecules are going to rise. So it's also related to particles. So the only way for transferring heat without the use of particle is radiation. So guys, the second question, pause the video and see you in the next 5 seconds. So guys, here it says what method of heat transfer occur mainly in solids. So guys, the answer is conduction. And why? Since in addition, furthermore, conduction can occur efficiently in solids, since in solid particles. And why? Since the particles in solid of the medium are tightly packed together, but in fluids, in liquids and gases, since the intermolecular force, since, or let's say in other words, because the force of attraction within the particles is not that much high, therefore they are not really tightly packed, like they are moving freely, especially gases. So they cannot be used efficiently in the process of conduction. So the answer is solid particles. So guys, the second question, see you in the next 5 seconds. So guys, what method or methods of heat transfer occur when particles with a lot of energy take the place of those with less? So it depends on the energy. That means two particles with the same chemical properties, they have different kinetic energies. They have different temperatures. So guys, indeed the answer is convection. And why? Since it says they are going to replace their places with each other, which means that it's related to the movement and the motion of the medium particles, which means that it's convection. And some IGCSE teenagers, they are having problems in this really common question, which they are saying conduction. Guys, it's not conduction, since the motion of the particles is not going to play any role in conduction. Yes, the particles are required in conduction, but not the motion of them. Since in solids, the solid particles, they are tightly packed together, so the motion of them is not pretty much important, since actually they are not moving, they are only vibrating, because the collision of them is really important, but the motion and the movement of those medium particles is only required in convection. Furthermore, in convection, a part of the fluid, or let's say a part of the gas or liquid, is heat, which finally expands since the density is getting less. That causes the fluid to rise since its density is getting decreased, and this cycle happens time to time for encouraging the whole fluid, the whole liquid, or the whole gas to become hot. So guys, the last question, pause the video and think about it. So guys, what surfaces best absorb and emit infrared radiation? So guys, the answer is dark black, since dark objects absorb and emit the radiation in a much greater rate. As I said before, whenever we are using the thermometer and also a stopwatch, when we are calculating we are starting the stopwatch for a single minute, the temperature of the same object with a dark black surface is much more than the same object with the same materials, but with a surface of silvery, or let's say in other words, shiny surface. And why? Since those dark and black surfaces, they are a great absorbers and emitters of heat, of radiation, and therefore they are going to absorb and emit the radiation, the heat, in a much greater rate compared to shiny or white objects or red objects. So we can't say no difference, since, as I said before 100 times, that in radiation, the colors of the surfaces of those objects are really important. So guys, that's all for today. Hope you understood this video perfectly. And guys, this video was related to the heat exchange, the heat transformation. So I would strongly recommend you to watch my last video related to heat capacity and latent heat of fusion or vaporization, so you can be more familiar with the concept of thermal energy. So guys, Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment. And also, if you haven't turned on the bell yet, please do it so you could be familiar with my upcoming videos. So hope you a great day and see you in our next video.